Trades on FFT Express. Yeah, feel it. All right, the most traded player is Cam Akers. That can't be right.
Wow, what an intro, and then right off the top,
I don't think that's correct.
Cam Akers.
I think that's like among free agents or something like that.
So why don't you toggle to all players?
Yeah, trying to. But let me work on that, Dave. But who are some of your favorite buy lows and sell highs?
We talked about a lot of the names on the main show, but Tyreek Hill makes sense as a buy low, figuring that his numbers will go up when Tua comes back. And it does sound like Tua Tagovailoa is going to come back this season. There are reports that it could be as soon as week 8. We are about to get into week 6. The Dolphins are on bye in week 6. So we might be one Dolphins game away from Tua Tagovailoa making his return. If my math is right on that, I'm not 100%, but Tyreek Hill, tough schedule toward the end of the year. Heath has talked about that, but his numbers can't get any worse. And the people who have Tyreek Hill on their fantasy teams might be interested in moving on from him. A long-term buy low, meaning you're going to buy low on him now and expect good things later, is Chris Olave with the Saints. We know that Derek Carr's out and Spencer Rattler might be under center. It could be Jake Haener. Either way, not great. But I wonder if it just means that New Orleans is just going to try and scrape by for the next couple of weeks. And then when Carr comes back, maybe their offensive line will be in better shape. Carr will be healthy and ready to go. And Chris Olave can go back to being a good fantasy receiver. Here's a name we didn't talk about on the show. And his value has actually gone up this week because there's good news on him. But Cooper Kupp looks like he's on his way back. And obviously the Rams are on bye in week 6. You can't use him. Chance he plays in week 7. And if not week 7, then maybe week 8 he's back. Here's somebody that you can get at a discount now, still, just not as deep of a discount, and potentially have as a PPR stud from week 9 plus, and maybe even before week 9.
Okay, I have the real most traded list if you'd like to.
So you went to the right page this time?
I did, yeah. But why don't you give me your sell highs first, then we'll talk about it.
I don't have many sell highs. Garrett Wilson is a kind of an obvious one.
He's the most traded player.
Okay, so, and it makes sense. He's coming off of a game where he had 13 catches for 101 yards and a touchdown. If all you see is the stat line, you think, all right, great. Garrett Wilson's finally delivering on that first round value or that top 15 value. He had 22 targets in the game. The Jets threw a ton. It's not going to happen every week. He might get 10, 11 targets most weeks, and that's really good, but 22 targets. And honestly, for him to have 100 yards and 1 touchdown on 22 targets doesn't seem like that's really that great of a deal. And this is the team that might acquire Davante Adams at some point. And if they do that, then you know that Garrett Wilson's targets will go to the single digits every single week. The other sell high I gave is DeAndre Swift. Last 2 weeks, he's been awesome for Chicago. They've implemented him a little bit more into their passing game. The run blocking's been better. They've also taken on some pretty soft run defenses. Now, they get Jacksonville this week. That's another one. But eventually, the matchups will get harder. We know that Swift has had a tough time staying healthy for long periods of time. And I don't know if he's going to be this good for the rest of the season. And the idea I floated on the show was take DeAndre Swift, pair something with him, and acquire Bijan Robinson, or you acquire Breece Hall, and go after one of those superstar running backs that somebody took with an early round pick and is disappointed in right now. And if it's going to be Bijan Robinson, do it before Sunday's game.
All right, and we're going to take a break. You can do that after we take a break. First, we have to do that. Then you can start trading for Bijan Robinson or whatever it is. And when we come back, we'll look at the most traded list and maybe answer some questions here on Fantasy Football Today Express. All right, here we go. In the most traded list, I mentioned Garrett Wilson's number 1. His potential teammate, Davante Adams, is number 2 on the most traded list. Where do you have him? And Tyreek Hill, by the way, is number 3. Where do you have Adams?
That's interesting that all 3 of those guys are ranked as high as they are. I wonder if they're getting all swapped for each other. In the trade chart, Davante Adams, I actually moved him down after moving him up a lot. He's top 12. He's 11th for me in it's based on the non-PPR. He's tied with guys like Drake London and Tyreek Hill in PPR as far as rest of season value. The idea being that he might miss one more game, and then he's on a new team with a better quarterback in a better situation, and he plays like Davante Adams again. I've watched him play Adam. I don't really think he's lost a step. I don't think he's slow. I don't think he's making mistakes. I don't think he's, he might have made some business decisions a few weeks ago, as Antonio Pierce put it. But I see a guy who still can give something to an NFL offense. as a number one type of wide receiver.
And I got a possible sell high for you here. Just let me check the schedule real quick, because it is hard to find sell highs. You don't want to give up productive players.
I've got the whole NFL schedule grid right here. So if you want to just give me the team, I'll tell you what their schedule is.
I got a schedule, but I think anytime Ramondre Stevenson has a good game, you should be looking to sell high, because he just could so easily get game scripted out. And obviously, if he fumbles again, that's a problem. But Houston this week at Jacksonville, that might not be too bad. The Jets, we've already seen one game against the Jets where he had 0.3 fantasy points. It's not that terrible of a schedule, but I wish I had sold high on Ramondre Stevenson after week 1 or week 2. I didn't. I regret it. Now might be the time, because 3 games with 17 or more fantasy points.
So a couple of things. Yeah, a couple of things there. Number one, what happens the next time he fumbles?
Right.
He's already fumbled 4 times, and the coaching staff made a token gesture and didn't let him start last week, and then he ended up playing, and he had a great game. If he fumbles again, does he get benched for a game, a half, a quarter? Does he get benched at all? Who the heck knows? But that's one factor. And then the other factor is, how is this offense going to perform with a rookie under center? Drake May's now the quarterback for New England. Will it be better? Could that make them more competitive? And if they're going to be more competitive, then that could mean that Ramondre Stevenson will have better game scripts maybe every week. On the flip side of that, what if Drake May stinks? And now the Patriots are falling behind. We've seen it for years with Ramondre Stevenson. When the Patriots are playing from behind, he's a zero burger, and you don't want to have that in your starting lineup.
All right. I have one more player I want to ask you about.
Okay.
Buy low. Sneaky buy low. No one wants him. I even dropped him in a league, so I'm not even saying he's not.
So how sneaky could this be if you're dropping this guy?
Well, he's on a buy.
Jordan quarterback?
Jordan Addison.
Oh, it's Sam Darnold's receiver. I thought you were going to say Darnold. Funny how.
No. Jordan Addison, he really hasn't played that much. He had 8 targets last week, and they've been throwing the ball so little. And I think that's got to change. I mean, this was the first game. I don't even know how many passes Darnold threw in week 5, but it was the first game with more than 28 pass attempts, and he threw 31. Maybe that'll keep happening, but I don't know. I mean, I like Addison. I think he's a good player. You do have the Hawkinson concerns. I get that.
Sure.
But, does anybody want Addison? He could be a guy. You make like a 6-player trade and you just get him as part of the deal.
He's one of the 3 players you get in the trade, something like that.
Whatever. Who cares, Addison? But I think there's some potential there. But all right.
There is, but I mean, we're in a bunch of leagues together and separately, and he's on the waiver wire in some of them. He's on the bench in others. And I don't see the value in targeting him with the idea that he's going to be someone that is a must start. Now, 3 receiver, 1 flex leagues. Yeah, Addison should be a valuable piece. At worst, he's a bye week replacement.
Ready for some chat trades? I am the commissioner. Does this sound fair? Trade Rico Dowdle and either Khalil Shakir or Shaheed for Breece Hall.
Does not sound fair.
So does it sound fair? Not on paper, but I wouldn't veto this trade. Go ahead.
No, I agree with you.
Make the offer. Chris Godwin and Joe Mixon for Bijan Robinson.
It's fine.
I think it might be too much, although I really don't know when Mixon's coming back.
Right.
But if you were telling me Mixon's back next week, week 7,
then it's too much for Bijan.
I'd say it's too much.
But we don't know that. The Texans have been stringing us along on Mixon since week 3.
Give up Waddle, get Dobbins.
Close to fair if it's full PPR. I think I'd rather have Dobbins.
Trade DK Metcalf and Tank Dell or Ramondre Stevenson for Derrick Henry in PPR.
Oh, if you can get it for DK and Dell, I like that. I think it's probably a little too much if you're making it Ramondre with DK.
Trade Metcalf for Bijan, full PPR.
Close, fair.
I would do that.
To get Bijan?
Yeah, I would do that.
Yeah.
It's not like a slam dunk, but I would take that chance.
It could become a slam dunk very quickly.
Right, exactly. All right, we're out of here. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day, and we'll talk to you tomorrow on Fantasy Football Today Express.